Adventure of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Wake up, America! It's time for the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY.com, West Palm Beach's #1 internet radio station. Here's your host, the Pipeman.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman, W4CY Radio, and this is the Positively Pipeman segment where we have the resident pet health guru that we have every week here to give us some great advice to keep your pets healthy and keep yourself healthy, and both of you happy as well. So let's welcome to the show, Pet Health Guru. Bill, how are you?
I'm fantastic. I mean, life is what you make it, and I choose to live healthy and, helping as many people as I can because I can share because I've done it. I'm not a youngster anymore.
Your talk.
Exactly. Just a little bit about me and what I do. I haven't been to an MD since the early 1990s.
Wow.
No prescription drugs, no drugs at all, not even over-the-counter drugs, nothing except food. And, of course, we're here to talk about home remedies because everybody is running around sick. With dis-ease, two separate words. And that's the problem is we've been told that all these things that people come down with, we can only trust the white coat, the establishment, that sort of thing. But there's nothing further from the truth. You can actually do it at home. But one of the keys to that is knowing basically what to source, how you source it. Now, we recently had on the Pet Health Cafe a whole segment on how to be healthy on a budget, because that's important. You're going to be able to afford your health. People spend literally truckloads of money on health insurance. That piece of paper never kept you healthy. And what are they using it for? They're using it for symptom management, not health.
Yeah.
It's in fact, if you go back in time, and I'm sure you remember, you bought hospitalization insurance.
Yeah.
Not health insurance. And between that time and today, there's less health in the hospitals and in the medical community than there was back then. At least you had doctors that, medicine was kind of a blend back in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and then all of a sudden they slammed the door on, healthy, earth-based, preventives, procedures, and all of that. It all became mechanical. It all became artificial. And that, we're not trying to heal the body anymore. We're just trying to manage your symptoms.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
I'm just flabbergasted what we do to people's human bodies.
Yeah, I know. It really is. And that is actually, it's all for a profit motive. Now, on previous segments, I know you and I talk about this all the time, that we can actually heal ourselves, cure ourselves with basically real food, real remedies that we can make up ourselves, although they're not really remedies. They're just, a combination of different foods for the most part. And, we just put them into different combinations to help the symptoms, but also to help heal the body. And the number one that you and I always talk about is that number one cure for every disease under the sun that our grandmothers made, chicken soup.
I have a question for you while we're on that. What is the key to the best Jewish chicken soup?
Number one, you want to find the best chicken. First off, is a Rhode Island Red, and you want to get the oldest rooster that you can because it's going to pull out all the minerals and all the nutrients into a great tasting soup. Actually, adding the chicken feet to it is even better because
Bingo. That's what I was looking for.
it's what gives you that nice golden color.
That's the Jewish secret ingredient. I remember when I first learned that, I was like, ew. And then like I my ex thing one, she used to get so upset that she could never match my matzo ball soup on the holidays.
Yes.
And you know, we never told the kids till later what the real ingredient was in there,
Yeah.
and that was the chicken feet. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly. Absolutely. Yep. But that, there's the easiest, you know, home remedy that you can make. When you go back in time, even the early 1900s, um, most people, their meals weren't the traditional American meal that was so nice on the plate with the meat and the potatoes and the vegetables. It was a stew or a soup.
yeah.
And it was a conglomeration of whatever you had, whatever was fresh and available in season for the most part. It was filling. It healed the body, because bone broth, and it doesn't matter what kind of bone broth it is loaded with minerals. And that's what we need is the minerals to rebuild the body, produce the hormones, and just overall health. The fact of the matter is those were normally more liquid and also cleaned out the gut. You weren't backed up. You had enough. You were getting the fluids from good, clean water back then, which we don't have today. You
Yeah.
know, so that's a big, big part of it right there. Now, other home remedies. Okay, when we made that soup or that stew, used a plethora of different herbs and what we call spices, but botanicals. And each one does something a little bit different, but they're all cleansing. They're all bringing in minerals all the time, all the time. Whereas today, everything that's ultra processed is loaded with different chemicals. You read the ingredient label on a loaf of bread, you can't pronounce half the stuff that's in it.
It's ridiculous. I don't even get it, man. I don't get why we need all these things in it. It's still, when you make it without all that stuff, it still looks the same and it tastes better.
Much, much better because it's natural. I mean, but we want to add, high fructose corn syrup to make it taste better, sweeter. MSG, make it taste better. There was nothing wrong with the taste in the first place. Why are we doing that? Well, because we added in the preservative, we added in the color, and the vitamins that were deficient that we've taken out of the grains in the case of breads and things of that nature. So we have to disguise it with the corn syrup and things of that nature. And of course, that just creates this whole waterfall, if you will, of illness, disease. And most of it's small stuff. Why does everybody run around? Why do we need all these antacids and these gastric problems?
Well,
Products.
what's funny about that is I have friends that they basically live off of either Gaviscon or Tums. And I just say to them, I'm like, wouldn't it be easier to just eat food that isn't going to make you feel like that?
But it doesn't taste good. I just crave this stuff. And also because those chemicals that you can't read, which are a lot of the synthetic sugars, those are narcotics
Yeah.
in our everyday food. You couldn't stand out front of a 7-Eleven or a Wawa or any of these stores with little packets of that product because you'd be busted. But I can walk in the door and I can buy it in a soda or I can buy it in a brownie or a sandwich.
I remember way back when I would cook steaks when I was in like middle school. One of my favorite seasonings to use on there, because it was very popular at the time that you cannot buy now, was Accent.
Yes.
And to this day, I'm trying to think to myself, why did it make it taste better? I'm not even really sure if it did. I think it was just programmed in our head.
Part of it was programming. The other part of that, though, was the chemicals that they had in there broke down the artificial, the omega-6 fats that were in that meat because we're feeding them grain now instead of grass. And it was actually also a tenderizer at the same time,
Yeah.
because that grain-fed beef back then, you had to use why do you think steak knives were serrated? Because you had to saw through your steak.
Yeah.
It
Totally.
wasn't real food.
Well, what other home remedies do you think we should tell people about that? Well, what would you say is your top 3 home remedies?
My top three, okay, and number one is probably
Hot toddy.
three. Nah, well, that would probably be number two or three. However, number one, raw honey. Raw
Mm.
honey is so nutrient dense, antibiotic, probiotic at the same time. Actually, it's absorbed when you put it in your mouth. It's being absorbed through your mucous membranes in your mouth, so it's working instantly. And the way we actually know that, I can have somebody that's having a seizure, a dog that's having a seizure, a cat, any animal that's having a seizure. If I put raw, unfiltered honey directly in their mouth, that seizure stops 5 to 15 seconds later
Wow.
because it's absorbed so easily and it does so much for the body. Actually, the compounds that are in it can actually cross the blood-brain barrier to stop a seizure in its track. For gastric stuff, again, coughs, a cold. So you're coughing, you get a lot of mucus. That honey breaks it down right away. Stops that coughing sensation. Because that's all caused too by the poisons that we've discussed on other things, where we get the mucus buildup. And of course, you wake up in the morning after being showered by our chemtrails and stuff like that. You wake up in the morning, you got all the eye gunk, your eyes are burning, so you've got the drip, it goes into your nose and then into your throat, and eventually gets down into your gut. Now you get an upset stomach on top of everything else. That helps break that stuff up and soothe it and heal, let the body heal itself.
Yeah.
Like you said, actually, of course, the bone broth was actually the number one, but honey is a go-to. Depending on the type of problem, I'd like to use a lot of spirulina and chlorella. Chlorella for cleansing, spirulina as an antioxidant. You can literally live on that combination your whole life and have everything that you need. Because spirulina is not an algae like people think it is, a plant. It's actually a bacterium that contains the amino acids that we need as well. I mean, I tell vegans, especially, and vegetarians, if you need, they're looking for a source for their their omegas and their, amino acids, supplement with spirulina. That's the only thing that has them in a so-called plant format. Of course, other go-to remedies, of course, as you mentioned, hot toddies or teas. That's important because, of course, the warm water. Again, you got to have clean water. Helps. And generally speaking, you can also, combine it with almost any healing herb. We've talked on previous shows about UTIs. Okay, so you can make dandelion tea and cranberry tea. For cleaning out your liver, milk thistle tea, turmeric teas. We can combine all these together, and we can infinite number of combinations depending on what's going on in the body. And it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to be a scientist to do this. Your body tells you. And I can illustrate that with people that actually do some cooking. I mean, that's unusual today. But, families especially, with everything that's going on, every family has a secret recipe that they use, their go-to when they don't have any time to do anything. And, quite often it'll involve some sort of meat, usually some ground meat, and usually some pasta or noodles or something of that. And it all goes in a pot together. And then we season it to our flavor, to what we want. And when we're doing that, we can do it 20 times in a row, and you're just going through the motions. You don't even think about it. The 21st time you reach in that cupboard to pull your herbs or botanicals and spices out of it, and your hand goes, oh, I want to try this one. Why did that happen? Because your body innately knows what you need. And you grab that one, you add it to your meal, and it's like, oh my God, why haven't I been using this forever? Because this is just so fantastic. 2 weeks later, you do the same thing. You grab the same herb, you add it to it, and it's like, oh my God, what am I thinking? This is such crap. It tastes horrible. And that's because your body only needed a tiny bit of it. And the other example I use on that particular part of it is vegans and vegetarians. Because we know we need the amino acids in that are in meat. But I'm not going to eat meat. That's horrible. Okay. Well, and even people that eat meat need different stuff. The organ meat primarily. Well, that's found in sausage and hot dogs. Oh, I would never give my kids hot dogs. I'd never feed that. And then they go to the fair and they walk past the hot dog stand. And even the most strict of vegans, anybody looking? Oh, give me two, quick, because the body knows it needs it. And in those cases, it knows that I'm not going to give it to it voluntarily anytime soon. So let me get as much as I can. You know, the person that would eat half a a lettuce sandwich is now eating 3-4 hot dogs in a row to build up their body over time. It's just, these are home remedies that you need that. You need to eat the right foods, and that's actually the remedies. The remedies are the food, are the nutrients that are in the food itself.
Well, you heard it here. Food is the home remedy. Bill, how do they reach out to you to get more information, get more advice, listen to your podcast, view your podcast, check out all your products at My Paleo Pet, all that good stuff?
First off, for general information, I always recommend start with the Pet Health Cafe. 18 seasons of information that are there. We've been bringing the truth since we find this stuff. I research all the time. I'm finding stuff. A lot of my research are things that were actually documented back in the early 1900s and the late 1800s. We've known about this stuff, but it's been hidden. I bring out the truth on the Pet Health Cafe. You can watch it on iHeart, watch it on YouTube, Spotify, on any of the, basically, I guess almost all of the audio platforms we're on, worldwide. So you've got a lot of information there that should be stimulating your brain to ask the questions. And then once you got that information, look at My Paleo Pet online website. First off, we've got all the products that we recommend and use. Secondly, we've got all my magazine articles, blogs, all of that are listed on there as well. And links, obviously, to my show. So we've got a whole library, basically, of research that's there. Explanations on the products where we are allowed to actually explain things. Because when it comes to things like herbs and botanicals and home cures, we cannot make any statements of anything that would resemble any kind of diagnosis or benefit. But you can read between the lines. And, of course, then you can come into the store, My Paleo Pet, in Pompano Beach, Florida, 954-971-2500. Talk with our trained team leaders there. They will help you put together stuff for the home remedies, which can start with herbs and botanicals. It can go to raw dairy and pasture-raised eggs, our farm to table with all our good Florida-raised, completely clean meats and fish and poultry. And on top of that, we also have clean water products, clean air products. Because my mantra is clean air, clean water, clean food. It makes it very easy. If you do that, you can live like me without getting sick every day or every other week or that sort of thing. Like 30 years, 35 years without having to take a single medication. And like I said, I'm not a young guy anymore. I work 7 days a week generally. Even when I'm not working, I'm working. And you're aware of that because we just keep going. We can go when we have the right nutrition, the right plan in place. Yeah, and it's not that difficult. Like I said, we give you different information on the podcast, even eating clean on a budget, and different individual maladies that just eating the right thing can actually cure. Yeah, but it's the body that does the curing, not us.
That's it. Well, once again, you're a great help to our listeners. a wealth of information, always have been, and you keep up to date with it too. So that's important. So I recommend everybody reach out to you, check out the Pet Health Cafe, check out My Paleo Pet, and we'll be back next week with more from the Pet Health Guru on the Positively Pipeman segment of the Adventures of Pipeman here on W4CY Radio. But in the meantime, we're going to do some ticket giveaways for upcoming festivals on the Pipeman Radio Tour, and we're going to have Michael Barbarita, our resident business expert, giving us some powerful business strategies right here on the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio. We'll be right back.
Incarceration, America's rock, metal, and tattoo festival returns this summer with Limp Bizkit, Disturbed, Bad Omens, plus Gojira, Papa Roach, A Day to Remember, Motionless in White, Ice Nine Kills, Cypress Hill, The Used, and so many more. Incarceration at the Ohio State Reformatory, July 17th to 19th. Passes on sale now at incarceration.com. The Sonic Temple Art and Music Festival returns May 14th through 17th with My Chemical Romance, Tool, Bring Me the Horizon, and Shinedown. Plus, Pierce the Veil, Good Charlotte, The Offspring, Sublime, Godsmack, Breaking Benjamin, Marilyn Manson, and so many more. Sonic Temple in Columbus, Ohio, May 14th to 17th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at sonictemplefestival.com. Welcome to Rockville. Returns to Daytona International Speedway, May 7th through 10th with Foo Fighters, My Chemical Romance, Guns N' Roses, and Bring Me the Horizon. Plus, Turnstile, Five Finger Death Punch, The Offspring, Breaking Benjamin, A Day to Remember, Godsmack, and so many more. Welcome to Rockville, May 7th through 10th. Passes on sale now for as low as $1 down at welcometoRockville.com.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures of Pipeman, W4CY Radio, and I'm here with our resident expert that we have on the Positively Pipeman segment every week with some powerful business strategies. And let's welcome to the show President of Next Step CFO, Michael Barbarita. How are you?
Fantastic, Dave. Thanks for having me. So last week, I talked about adding more value and as part of a compelling offer. This week, I'm going to talk about packaging and bundling products and services together, which also enhances an offer and makes it more compelling. I remember when I was in the ski business, everybody and his brother packaged skis, boots, and pole, or skis, boots, bindings, and poles, or skis, bindings, and poles, all the time. And customers would constantly come in looking for packages. Mm-hmm. Because a package is like a packet, the perception is like a package or a bundle is like a package deal. The word deal like follows package very naturally for most people. And so we developed packages, certainly for skis, like every other competitor did. The problem is that those packages were comparable. So if you had a Rossignol ski and a Tyrolia binding and a reflex pole that was packaged together, a competitor had something almost exactly the same, and it was very, very comparable. But what we did is we also packaged clothing. We were the first ones to do it. No one else did it. Even after it was successful, no one else did it. But what we did, Dean, is we took the most popular ski graphics that people would buy in a ski package, okay, the graphics. And we went over to the clothing department and we put together a hat, sweater, parka, and pant combination to match those graphics, those popular ski graphics. And so once a customer bought a pair of skis, it was so easy to take them over to the clothing department and sell them the matching clothing package that went with that ski package. And it worked, it worked phenomenally well. And I guess the critical point is that when you package things together, now the way you price it is you either do one of two things. You either have, you know what your individual component prices are. You either increase those and make the package less so you don't lose any margin, or you're more interested in generating gross profit dollars so you keep the prices the same of the individual components and make sure there's a $10 to $25 savings with the package. And that works famously. And so the customer knows they're getting a deal, but you just increase your average dollars per sale for versus individual components. So it works really, really well. And the other thing that's worked very well in packaging is a good, better, best model, where you have a good, what you consider to be a good low end product bundle package, and then a better, and then a best. And what that does is that increases the sales of the better for the most part. Sometimes people buy the best, of course, but it really is designed to increase the sales of the better. And so by using a good, better, best model, that's another compelling way to deliver to the customer, because it's a package. Once again, package deal. And so these are terrific ways to, and the beautiful thing about a package, the best thing about a package, is that, except in the ski business where everybody was packaging the same thing, but when I started packaged clothing, they were going into other stores asking for packages, and they didn't have them at all. And even if they did, and they never did, but even if they did, it would never be the same. It would be dramatically different versus the ski package that was kind of replicatable. And so so you can really differentiate yourself from your competitors when you package things together.
Yeah, totally.
Because no one else is offering that package or that bundle.
Well, not only that, but people like to buy packages. Okay, let's call it what it is. It's psychological, and the proof of that is everybody that goes to McDonald's wants to buy a value meal. I've done the math. Most people don't do the math too when it comes to packages.
Right.
Okay? They think they're saving money, but if you calculate the value meal at McDonald's, if you were to buy the items separately, you would pay a penny less.
Right.
So in other words, you're actually paying a penny more to get the value meal. They have packaged it so you want to buy it even if you don't want the stuff in it. And the business has ended up selling you more than they would have sold you. I'm a perfect example of how that could work if I didn't realize what they were doing. Because, I'm somebody like, I don't eat fries or I don't have a drink. There's some places you go, they have this package deal where, oh, well, I'm only paying 50 cents more for the drink. The stupid part about that from my end is that I'm not going to drink the drink. So I'm paying 50 cents more to get the value and the package because it's appealing to me.
Right.
And that's true of everybody.
Right. And, I noticed Dunkin' Donuts did in this market area here on the East Coast did the same thing, where you add up the components and they're more than the individual parts, which is a little deceptive. But
it's deceptive, but brilliant at the same time.
That's right. That's right.
They wouldn't be able to do that if people actually figured it out.
I know, but the thing that kills me is they call it a value meal, and
Well, I'll take it a step further. When I have told people that I'm with that, if you just buy it separately, you'll pay less. They're like, yeah, but it's easier just to order the value.
Yeah, right. That's
how people think.
Yes.
And they'll think that way with anything. Like you're talking about the skis. To them, it's easier to just sell me everything I need.
Right. Very good point.
You feel nickel and dime too. I know I do. If you do that to me, well, this will cost this, this will cost this, this will cost this. If you give me the package, then I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And I'm not so analytical about how much I'm spending because I don't feel like you're nickel and diming me.
It's so true. It's so true. The psychology there is just amazing.
Yeah,
and
100%.
And people would be more apt to buy a package. And especially like you said, to your point, you're talking about give me everything I need for one price.
I did. I think I told you in another episode. I did that long ago when I was in the pool and spa business. And we would have like Labor Day sales, day after Christmas sales, where there was a line out the door. And I always sold way more than every other salesperson because I had created packages before I even started.
Wow.
And people would come up and I'm like, here. And I would write up the whole thing. Here you go. Here you go. And it would be like, one after another, opposed to what the other salespeople were experiencing is having to go over everything. The people are feeling nickel and dime, and then they're asking more questions. Well, why should I get that skimmer opposed to the skimmer? Why should I get that filter opposed to that filter? Whereas the way I was doing it is like, it includes everything you need, and they didn't ask me a question. And literally, the average pool sale, which was, anywhere from 5 to 10,000, took me less than 5 minutes, whereas my other salespeople there, they would be pitching people for 2 hours on one sale.
Oh, that's amazing.
It works.
The psychology behind it is just fantastic. And a lot of business owners are leaving money on the table by not utilizing them.
Absolutely. So how do our listeners reach out to you to find out what your bundles are?
Okay, well, they go to nextstepcfo.net. They could download a free copy of my book called Powerful Business Strategies. And I'm always updating my book. And I love interviewing business owners for the next edition. And so they go to nextstepcfo.net/contact, fill out the contact form, and in the message section, write the word book interview. And I'd love to have the opportunity I love interviewing business owners. And in exchange for that, you'll get we'll go over strategies that your competition isn't doing. And by the way, what I interview you on is what impact the strategy would have for businesses who would utilize it in your industry. So I need your opinion. I'd like your opinion on it because business is always changing.
Yeah, totally. And I do want to give one last example that I was thought about while you were talking too is, another perfect example is the fact that, people go to a restaurant, let's say, and nowadays the fashionable thing at restaurants is they pass on the credit card fee to you, which used to be illegal, but now it's legal, and they charge you a 3% service charge for using a credit card. First of all, we know that if they're using the proper merchant, they're making money off of that too. But here's the point. Somebody like me, when I see that, I want to leave the restaurant and go somewhere else. My viewpoint is if you're going to do that, just raise your prices, build it into the price. I'll feel much better. When you're nickel and diming me like that, it makes me feel like I don't want to do business with you. I would rather you add that 3% into the price of my meal. And then I know, well, that's the cost of the meal. Opposed to trying to say, hey, here's the price of the meal, but here you got to pay this extra charge because, we're processing your credit card and it's the cost of doing business. No,
I can't agree with you more. It's a cost of doing business. I can't agree with you more.
Like I use credit cards all the time. I never charge people the service fee. It's part of my expense for running a business.
I do this. I do the same thing. Exactly.
So even do that. Bundle your service charges.
Right. Get that in there.
There it is. All right. Thanks a lot once again, Michael, and we'll see you again next time here on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Thank you, Dean.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.